What's going on, everyone? This is Kevin here, coming at you with my hands-on and first impressions video of the Samsung Galaxy A05s. So without further ado, let's get started. Now, the A05s was recently launched in October of 2023, and as the name of the phone does imply, it is the successor to last year's Galaxy A04s. Now, going from that generation to this generation has brought us a lot of different changes and improvements, and I am looking forward to comparing this device to the A04s in an upcoming video, so definitely stay tuned for that content. But one thing's for sure, this time around with the A05s, we really have gotten a lot of new things here with the device, and I'm looking forward to showing you all of that here in this video. But before we get too far into things here with the phone, let's see what all comes included in the box. Another thing I want to mention as well is that this phone is offered in a variety of different colors. You can see that I did get it in green, but I will be linking to the device in the video description so you can see all the various options available for you. As of the time that I'm making this video, this phone has not been officially launched in the US, and this is the international model of the device. It is possible though that in the future it could make its way onto a prepaid carrier, for example, and I'm definitely hoping that is the case. But if you are located in the US and you do want this phone right now, you can always go for this international model of the device, and it most likely will work with your carrier. But included in the box, we have a SIM card removal tool. We're also getting a double-sided USB-C cable for charging and data transfer, and we're also getting some literature here. Now, one of the new things with the A05s is that we're getting a very large display. So this display size has been increased from last year's A04s, and this time around, we're getting a 6.7-inch display. Now, having a display this large is really helpful for a variety of different reasons, but especially if you're using your device for social media or for watching video content, it is really nice to have such a large canvas here to view that content. But in addition to that, the display itself is PLS IPS LCD, and it does feature a 90 Hz refresh rate. You might have also noticed too that colors are surprisingly good, especially for a very low-end phone like this one. And when you look at this display, it certainly doesn't appear to be cheap at all. It looks really great, and there's really not much more I can ask for from it, especially for a low-end phone. Now, to make things even better, this display is 1080p, so super crisp and clear. We're getting a PPI of 393, we're getting a 20:9 aspect ratio, so a more narrow but taller form factor, and we're getting an 82.9% screen-to-body ratio. So we do have a notch up top here, and then we do have a slightly thicker bottom bezel, but overall I really like this form factor, and especially for an affordable smartphone. Now up top here we do have a 13 megapixel front-facing camera, and stay tuned for my full review video of this device, as I'll be showing you photo and video samples from all the various cameras on it. Now, this particular model of the device does come with 128 gigabytes of storage, along with microSD card expansion. So 128 gigabytes is certainly a very generous amount of storage. That'll get you very far, unless your current device maybe has more storage than that. But I think for most people, 128 gigs will be plenty. And then if you do want to offload photos and videos, for example, to free up some of that internal space, then that's why we do have the microSD card slot, so that you can add in a microSD card. So that's really good, and it is possible there might be some other versions of this device with different storage configurations, and if that does happen to be the case, then keep that in mind. But from what I've been seeing online, it does seem like most Galaxy A05s do come with 128 gigs. Now, there's no wireless charging, unfortunately, with this device, but there is a fingerprint sensor on the power button. So let's give that a try right now. And that's very fast and responsive. Let's try that one more time. There we go. So that works really well. And in addition to that, this phone does support Face Unlock. Now on the back of the device, we're getting a triple camera setup. So we're getting a 50 megapixel main camera, a 2 megapixel depth sensing camera for portrait mode, and a 2 megapixel macro camera for close-up images. And then we are getting portrait mode with both the rear and front cameras on this device. And here's how things look on the camera app on the Galaxy A05s. This is with the main rear camera right now. Then from here, we can switch over to the More tab to access the macro camera. And then with that macro camera, you can get very close up and have things be in really good detail. In addition to that, we can go back here, we can go over to portrait mode and get those nice blurred out backgrounds. You even get an option here to adjust the level of blur, which is pretty cool. And then flip around to the front-facing camera, you can take portrait selfies if you want, or you can also crop out for a group selfie, or you can take standard selfies as well. So certainly a lot of different options there. You can also see that beauty mode is enabled by default. I'm definitely not really a fan of that mode, so I am going to be turning that off for more natural looking photos. So definitely some different things you can kind of try out here and change and test out. Also in video mode, we do get 1080p video for the front and rear cameras, so that is nice too. And even though the main camera is 50 megapixels, keep in mind that if you want to take photos in that full 50 megapixels, you are going to have to go up here and then go to 50 megapixel mode. So by switching to that mode, it does take slightly longer to capture an image with a slight delay there, but in exchange for that, you can really zoom in and have things be in really good detail there. So in comparison, here's the macro camera, and then with macro, as I mentioned, you can get close up and get really good quality. But from what I've noticed on this phone and other phones as well, is that, well, the macro camera quality is good. If you do take photos in the higher megapixel mode, like what's offered here with the 50 megapixel mode, you can zoom in and pretty much get the same results as well. So the good news at least is that if you do want to capture images of close-up objects, you do at least have multiple methods for capturing those images in really sharp quality. Now this device is being offered with 6 gigabytes of RAM. I believe there's some versions of it with 4 gigabytes of RAM, but this one has 6. And then the processor is the Qualcomm Snapdragon 680 4G processor. So as the name of the processor does suggest, this phone is limited to just 4G LTE. So if you do want to use it on your carrier's latest and greatest network using 5G, unfortunately that's not an option here. So I believe that's really one of the biggest compromises with the A05s and why you might want to go for something a little bit higher end, because other than that, this phone is packed full of lots of different features. So I do wish it had 5G, and if it did, that would certainly make this phone an even better option than it already is. But on the other hand, for a lot of people out there, they don't really need a 5G device. 4G still works really well. And if you don't think you'll really be using 5G, then I suppose that's not really an issue here. But I was really surprised to see that we were getting that processor from Qualcomm, because it is really a good processor and you should expect to get really nice performance with the A05s and especially further into the future as well. So I definitely don't think Samsung cheaped out when it comes to the processor here with the A05s. I also ran a benchmark test using Geekbench 5. I got a single core score of 413 and a multi-core score of 1408. So what I recommend doing is running this test on your current phone and then compare your scores to these scores to get a better idea of how the A05s compares to what you currently have. You certainly wouldn't want to get this phone if it's actually a slower device than your current phone. You do want, of course, your upgrade to be a real upgrade. But if you are someone who's looking for a decent smartphone, but maybe not something that's extremely expensive or has the latest and greatest technology, then the A05s most likely will be a very worthy option for you. Of course, I've got to test it out a lot more. I've got to try out the cameras in a lot of different situations, but so far, things do look really promising here. Now with this phone, we are getting a 5,000 milliamp hour internal battery, so really nice that we're getting such a large battery capacity here. And then the phone can charge it up to 25 watts, which is really impressive as well. I believe that really fast charging speed is enabled because of the processor that we're getting here with the phone. So that's yet another benefit of this chip from Snapdragon. And then this phone is running Android 13. It is running Samsung's version of Android. So if you've used any Samsung device anytime in the last several years, then the experience here will be very familiar to you. Now, unfortunately, with the A05s, there's no NFC. So if you do want to use your phone for tap and pay, using services such as Samsung Pay, for example, then you can't do that. But taking a closer look at the actual hardware itself of this device, the phone is made completely of plastic, which makes sense, especially for an entry-level smartphone. But I've got to say, given that they made the phone out of plastic, I do feel like it does look really nice. I'm a big fan of this green color. Of course, as I mentioned, there are other colors available as well, but I like too that the back is kind of a frosted finish, but also a wavy look to it as well. On the left side of the device, we have just the slot for the microSD card and SIM card. Then on the right side, we have volume up, volume down, and the power button, which doubles as the fingerprint sensor. Then up top here, we have the noise canceling microphone. And then on the bottom of the device, we have the 3.5mm headphone jack, microphone, USB-C port for charging and data transfer, and we have the speaker. And then on the back of the phone, we have the Samsung logo, camera module, and the flash. But this concludes my hands-on and first impressions video of the Samsung Galaxy A05s. I hope you enjoyed this video, and if you have any questions at all about this device, certainly let me know in the comment section below. But this is Kevin here, this is the Samsung Galaxy A05s, and I will see you in the next one. Take care and have a great rest of your day.